The Peter Schiff Show.
Welcome, everybody, to the second hour of the Peter Schiff Show. Tom Woods in for Peter. Quite an interesting guest we have right now. And I first wrote about this guest a few days ago at my blog at tomwoods.com, and the subject line of the blog was, the title of the post was, I love people who actually do things that I only talk about. And the guest we're welcoming right now is Peter-Jan Celis, who is the founder of a very interesting new website, Judge.me. It is an online arbitration system. It is it can operate in about over 140 countries. It allows you to submit your testimony from anywhere, anytime, from any device. And the idea of it is that this is an example of non-governmental dispute resolution. And that's something that's been on the rise. For example, the American Arbitration Association, simply because the government courts have been so, well, either corrupt or backlogged or expensive or clumsy. So I'm very pleased now to welcome Peter-Jan Celis. Welcome to the Peter Schiff Show.
Thank you for having me, Tom.
Now, you are coming to us, I guess, from Chile now, but where are you from? Belgium.
Originally, I'm a Belgian, and I actually moved here because I'm participating in an incubator program called Startup Chile, which is a program here that pays you if you want to start your company in Chile. So that's what I'm doing now. I've been here now for 6 months, and I will stay for another 2, after which I will move to the U.S.
Oh, you're moving to the U.S.? Okay.
Yes, to Chicago.
Okay, wonderful. All right, I'd like you to take your time here and explain to us, we'll get into later what made you decide to do this, what were your philosophical influences. We'll do that later, but just describe how your system works.
Okay, so it's a small claims court on the internet. So if you have a small claim, we can offer online arbitration that's legally binding in all those countries. And the way it works, if you file your case online, you have to offer a case summary, and then I will appoint an arbitrator who is experienced in that area, and we can do your arbitration hearing over email. So instead of going to a court and having to make an appointment and having to take a day off of work, you can just write an email when it suits you, using your iPad, using your laptop, whatever, doesn't matter. And then at the end of the arbitration hearing, so the arbitrator will ask for your testimony, for your evidence, which you can attach in attachment. And at the end, you will get an arbitration award, which is like the official decision of the arbitrator. And we will offer that to you, and then you can enforce that in all those countries because we use certain laws, which I can explain later.
Now, how much does it cost the litigants to participate in this?
It is $150 per party, so $300 in total, or $299 to be exact. And okay. At the end of the arbitration, oftentimes the arbitrator can allocate the fee to the losing party. So if you're in the right, you end up losing nothing in terms of administration or costs of arbitration.
Okay, now how long has this been online?
It has been online 4 months now.
Okay.
I launched it January 17th.
Now, it seems to me one of the necessary ingredients for the success of something like this is the reputation. The arbitrators themselves need to build up a reputation for fairness so that people would want to submit cases to these arbitrators. So how do you get off the ground? When initially you're sort of an unknown service, you don't have the pre-existing reputation, how do you get the process started?
Okay, so originally I used arbitrators that are certified by CARP, the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, which is like a private body that trains arbitrators. It's the largest institute like this in the world. They have 12,000 members, so that's how I started. And now the last week or so, I got quite famous in like the Tom Woods areas of the internet. And then I had Stephen Kinzella and people like that apply to become an arbitrator. So now I have very experienced lawyers and arbitrators who want to work for me. And what I plan to do now in the next 2 weeks is to change the site to also include the arbitrator profiles in public, so people can know upfront which type of judge they will get. Because I agree with you, it all depends on the reputation of the judge in the end.
Now, when you earlier in the program, we were talking about a caller called in and asked about the debate that goes on, and it's a debate that goes on among a pretty small sliver of the population, but between a strictly limited government, so-called, that is just confined to defending life and liberty, and a Rothbardian system where the free market basically provides all the goods and services that society needs. Yeah. Did any of that sort of stuff influence your decision to try to start this firm, or is this just a purely practical thing? No,
absolutely. I discovered Ron Paul in 2007, and I became an NCAP in 2008, anarcho-capitalist, and so I was really fascinated by this free market for law topic, because I found it the most interesting, the most challenging to understand how it could work, and even more so how we could evolve from the current state to this ideal state that Rothbard and people like that describe in their papers. And so I've studied it for a while. I even applied for a PhD 2 years ago in Belgium with a certain professor called Frank van Dun. And then I was still wondering, like, how can I now take the first baby step? And that's when I took an arbitration course at CARP, and then I understood how the current law works, and that's why now I can offer this enforcement from the start, because I'm still applying certain laws. But of course, eventually the idea is, if I become popular enough, I will also create user profiles on the site like JudgeMe/Tom Woods, and then hopefully, eventually, having just a profile where it says, if you didn't pay your award, you get called out on the website. That should be enough for enforcement as well. And if I reach that level, then we have pure private law, because at this point, I'm still relying for the enforcement part on the government.
Right, okay. Now, before we go to our break, I want to ask you, you're saying on your site that there are, I guess, over 140 countries that would respect the decisions of your arbitrators. Does that mean that an arbitrator has to be familiar with the laws of 140 countries, or is he basing his judgment on just sort of natural principles of justice?
You can actually choose, when you appoint an arbitrator, which law you want to apply, but the law we are applying is the old merchant law that developed in the Middle Ages. You have discussed it before in this program. So it's like it's called the merchant law. It's called Lex Mercatoria, and it's basically all the principles that developed in the equity courts and in the common law systems over the ages. And so that's basic contract law, yes. But if you want to, you can also apply. You can also appoint an arbitrator that has to apply a certain local law. But again, to keep things simple and to keep it low cost, we apply these general principles.
All right, much more to talk about after this break with Peter-Jan Celis. Everybody, check out judge.me. That's judge.me. This is very, very interesting. We are indeed living in times where the changes that are going to be occurring are ones that we could hardly have dreamed of just a generation ago. All right, stick around here for more on the Peter Schiff Show, the gold standard in talk radio. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Peter Schiff Show. Tom Woods in for Peter. We are joined now, we're continuing our conversation with Peter-Jan Celis, who is the creator of this very interesting new international arbitration website, judge.me. I mean, you can offer your testimony at your convenience from your mobile device and get a professional arbitrator to decide the merits for $150 for these small claims cases that he's entertaining. All right, so far, you've only been in business a very short time. How much activity have you seen? Have any cases actually been heard? What's been the status?
Well, the actual amounts of cases I've done is only 3 so far, because there is a lag between using the clause in your contracts and actually filing a dispute.
Right.
But I've had plenty of interest. If I look at my support tickets from people using my clauses. So also pretty soon I will start offering sample contracts on my website, because that's one thing people have been asking for. And then another thing is I'm looking to partner with marketplaces to increase the caseload sooner and to reach profitability soon, because marketplaces like an Elance, they have disputes all the time going on their website because they have people trading on their website. And so if I can partner with those types of firms, then I can increase my caseload sooner.
Yes, absolutely. Now, so when you're talking about clauses in contracts, you mean that two people entering into some sort of agreement would have a contract saying that if you and I have a dispute, we will refer that dispute to judge.me?
Yes, indeed. So you have to agree at some point before starting the arbitration hearing that you both use judge.me, because I cannot force myself upon anyone, right? And you can do that either by just filing your case online because you're signing the arbitration agreement, so that's fine. But we also recommend to actually use the clause we have on our homepage in all your contracts, because then you can agree before you actually have a dispute. Because after you have a dispute, it is hard to actually agree on anything, let alone judge me as a service. And then you end up having to go to court anyway, because if the other party doesn't want to join you, then you're stuck with court.
Now, what do you think are the advantages of using your service as opposed to just whatever traditional government option would be available to people?
Well, other than it's cheaper and more convenient, I would also say it is binding in 146 countries, so you can use it for international transactions. Imagine if you order an iPhone app in India somewhere from a developer there, and the guy doesn't deliver, then in theory now you have to go to India to get his money out, right? If you want to sue him for $10,000, for example, it will be hard to do it in an efficient way. While if you use Judge Me, it's only $300. Most likely, if you win, the other party has to pay it, and then you can just enforce it in India, which is much cheaper as a process to do. And we can even help you with that also.
Now, we've been referring to this figure of 140-something countries. What kind of countries are reluctant or refuse to allow your service and the judgments made by your service to be legally binding in their country? What kind of reasons are given?
Well, the countries that are not on the list are mostly African countries who just don't sign many of those conventions, and also tax paradises, like the small tax paradises that want to stay out of every convention possible. So those are not on the list. And the biggest exception among industrialized countries is Taiwan. And I actually don't know why they don't sign it, but they're not on it. So that's the only big exception. And if you go to my website, I'll list all the countries also in my fact page.
All right, we're talking to Peter-Jan Celis, the founder of Judge.me, which I highly recommend people look into. I find this very interesting. How long does it take the typical case to resolve? I mean, I know you said you've only had a few so far, but how long does it take to resolve these cases?
Well, if all parties actually respond in a timely manner, it can be done in a matter of less than a week, let's say. Because, I mean, normally the type of disputes we have is also small claims, right? So the amount of evidence is also limited in most cases. But it can take, I mean, if I look at the 3 cases we had so far, the shortest was 3 days, and the longest was like a week and a half or something. And most of the time it is one party who doesn't respond, that's why it goes over a week. And then we have to allow some time, because otherwise, and then if the party still doesn't respond after like a few weeks, then we end the case without him. But yeah, so it actually depends on the parties and their involvement.
Now, of course, this varies very much by country, but a typical small claims case decided in a government court, how long would that take? I mean, just a very ballpark figure.
Well, I think the actual judging that is also possible to do it quite fast. But the problem is more like setting up the meeting and finding a time and place to meet all in small claims court. That is the issue there, because our system is you can do it from everywhere. You can be anywhere in the world. You can actually respond anytime you want in the morning and the evening. So there is no point in meeting, and that is actually the biggest benefit. I think that is what will save most time and convenience for people.
Now, is it your intention to specialize in small claims, or are you starting in small claims with ambitions to expand into other types of cases?
Well, eventually I want to do all types of cases, but my first expansion is most likely into profiles and just targeting first this international trade that people do when they buy iPhone apps, like all people trading online. So those are people I will target first. And then in terms of arbitrators, I'm now targeting more the segment of the C-ARP arbitrators, and now also people who apply because they hear me on like all these shows. And then I want to create like a small community that first uses me, and it will be any type of community that I will notice that uses me. It can be designers, it can be developers, I don't know yet. We will see, and I will go from there. But eventually, yes, I mean, the ambition is to create profiles and to create a legal system that is purely based on a private order. And of course, the ambition is high, but we have to go step by step.
Now, it seems to me that what you want to do at this point is really the key thing is spreading the word that you exist, because I think once people find out about it, I feel this way about as an author sometimes. I feel like I've written a really great book, but if only people knew it existed, then they would love to read it. Well, the same thing here. It seems
Yes.
like your task right now is to get the word out, maybe get somebody in marketing to help you, or to try to use social media or whatever. How are you doing that? How are you trying to expand your reach?
So if I want to expand, I need two things, right? I need caseload, I need arbitrators. In terms of arbitrators, the amount of applications has been overwhelming. I already have like 10, 15 really good arbitrators, like Stephen Kinsella even applied last week. Patrick Tinsley, his partner in his law firm, also applied. So we have amazing arbitrators. So that is already settled. And those people, they can take on in total maybe 200, 300, 400 cases a month. So that is fine. And so in terms of caseload, I'm trusting that I will soon be able to partner with some marketplaces. And that will also then increase my increase the branding, because if people use me once and then they can come back later, right?
Well, sure. Now, in Belgium, is there a move toward the expansion of private arbitration the way we've seen in the United States, or is this largely an American phenomenon?
I think it's mostly American. I don't think many Belgians are actually concerned about all these topics that we are talking about here. It seems to be off the radar. I mean, there is a group Belgian NCAPs, and they only have like 150 members. So I don't think all these topics are really evolving in Belgium. It's mostly an American phenomenon.
Well, I mean, I ask because, and we're a little bit low on time, but I ask because people sometimes say that the United States is an unusually litigious society with a lot of frivolous lawsuits, or there are a lot of regulations that the government imposes that people are always being caught up in, and so they sometimes an employer will say, if you have a dispute with me, we will take it not to the courts but to the American Arbitration Association. And I guess I would have thought that maybe there would be some European interest in something like that, not because they read Murray Rothbard, but just because they're tired of being in court all day. But maybe only Americans are in court all day. Do you have like a 30-second response to that?
I haven't noticed any interest in those AAA type of arbitration in Belgian employers, so I don't think it's happening a lot. It might, but I don't know for sure.
Well, then in that case, we are, and for all other cases too, we are very glad to welcome you with open arms to the United States when you make it here, because there is an audience for this. There is a clientele waiting for a service like this. So, Jan Peter Celis, thanks so much for taking the time with us today on the Peter Schiff Show.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, everybody, make sure and check out judge.me. Very interesting stuff, very worthwhile. Next, we're going to take some more calls. The number is 855-4-SCHIFF. That's 855-472-4433. Stick around for more of the Peter Schiff Show, the gold standard in talk radio.